Heather Linebaugh is a former U.S. drone operator, and she wrote an earth-shattering piece for The Guardian. And she talks about what's really going on in the drone program, and it's certainly not what most Americans think it is. She says, quote, "Whenever I read comments by politicians defending the unmanned aerial vehicle Predator and Reaper program, aka drones, I wish I could ask them a few questions. I'd start with, how many women and children have you seen incarcerated by a Hellfire missile? And how many men have you seen crawl across a field trying to make it to the nearest compound for help while bleeding out from severed legs? Or even more pointedly, how many soldiers have you seen die on the side of the road in Afghanistan because our ever-so-accurate UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, were unable to detect an IED, improvised explosive device, that awaited their convoy? What the public needs to understand is that the video provided by a drone is not usually clear enough to detect someone carrying a weapon, even on a crystal clear day with limited cloud and perfect light. This makes it incredibly difficult for the best analysts to identify if someone has weapons for sure. One example comes to mind. Quote, the feed is so pixelated, what if it's a shovel and not a weapon? I felt this confusion constantly, as did my fellow UAV analysts. We always wonder if we killed the right people, if we engaged the wrong people, if we destroyed an innocent civilian's life, all because of a bad image or angle. Now, this is what's actually going on. See, a lot of people think because some dumbass politicians made this up, they say, oh, no, it's you don't understand. I mean, the way that we actually fight these wars is somebody has perfect HD, crystal clear screen. They know exactly what's going on. They have perfect intelligence at all times. They know who's an Al-Qaeda operative, who's a Taliban operative, who's an innocent civilian, and they can target somebody to the size of a dime from thousands of miles away, and we have this thing down perfectly. And what she's saying is, no, not really. What everybody thinks is going on is the equivalent of like, you know, an Xbox 360 or a PS4. But what we really have going on is an Atari. It's really the most primitive system you could imagine. And it's as simple as, I don't know, throw some missiles on this makeshift unmanned plane we created that we can barely control, and then we'll fly it over foreign lands and kill people. So the worst fears of all of the progressives and the anti-war activists is true. And this is somebody who's in the lion's den saying, no, that's right. That's exactly what happened. She goes on to talk about how people who were doing this are now experiencing severe depression and psychological issues. And she says the reason why they're experiencing it is actually very simple. Oftentimes they're killing civilians, and they know deep down they're killing civilians. Yeah, that's going to do a number on you. Not to mention what it does to the families overseas and the actual people that are killed. I mean, this is wrong on so many levels, it's hard to even break it down. Quote, the UAVs in the Middle East are used as a weapon, not as protection, she says. As long as our public remains ignorant to this, this serious threat to the sanctity of human life at home and abroad will continue. So she's making the point, this has nothing to do with national defense. This is offense. This is not for protection. This is a weapon that we're using against them, often on feeble intelligence. You have to realize there's three kinds of drone strikes that we do. One of them is a personality strike. That's like the least controversial one, where you know who you're going after doing intelligence gathering, and you kill that person. It's still illegal under the Geneva Convention and the Nuremberg Tribunal, but it's the least controversial of all of them. Then you have a signature strike, which is we don't know who we're killing, but we just think that there might be terrorists there, and you kill them. And then you have a double tap, which is you kill people who you think maybe are terrorists, and then you circle around and kill the first responders, who may just be helping them to bring them to a local hospital because they see somebody bleeding in the middle of the street. I mean, this is what we're engaged in. Is this how the United States of America wants to spend our tax dollars? Are you comfortable with this? It's your money funding this. It's my money funding this. This is our government, and they're acting like rogue idiots. And that's being kind. That's being generous. In reality, this is just criminal. And I love her point about the sanctity of life. to all the conservative Christians and all the Republicans out there who say that they're Christians. All right, here's a time to actually exercise your Christianity. Okay, you want to talk about sanctity of life? Talk about sanctity of life. Innocent people being killed by our drones that are paid for by our tax dollars. I mean, the fact that this isn't focused on more than abortion, for example, this is a clear example of taking innocent lives. Don't take my word for it. Take the words of the investigative reporters who did the research on this, where they said thousands of innocent lives have been killed just in Pakistan and Yemen. Never mind Somalia, never mind Afghanistan, where the numbers are even higher. The drones have a 98% failure rate. This was another study that came out. I can't believe it didn't get more press than it did. Only 2% of the time they're hitting senior Al-Qaeda operatives. This is ridiculous. But is this story going to get as much traction as it should? Of course not. Of course not.